Sandra Gold and Lonely Boy, which couldn't be more appropriate because I'm on my tot this morning. Lou's having a well-earned day off, but lovely to have your company. 9:09, Jamie with you on BBC Radio Wales. It's 3 days now since the news was announced of the death of Osama Bin Laden. The story has made, and of course continues to make, headlines all around the world. The American political journalist in Wales, Denis Campbell, is with me this morning to give his take on events. And Denis, almost every time you log on, every 10 minutes, the story goes off in a different direction. The newspapers in the UK this morning have headlines like this one from the Telegraph: the White House backtracking on how Bin Laden died. Those early reports issued by the White House have now been revised, and the story isn't quite what we thought it was.
Good morning, Jamie. Yeah, it's quite strange the way you would let an urban legend story like that get out. It puts you on the back foot, and you're really not quite sure now what to believe. I mean, it was such a great story, handled very well at the very beginning, but somewhere somebody embellished with the Rambo-esque sort of, he's using his wife or using some woman as a human shield and all sorts of other things that turn out not to be true. And this was always from the beginning an assassination order from the president. He was to be taken out completely, and it's very clear that that's what it was. Now they seem to be a bit nervous about how that will be perceived in the broader Muslim world, that we ordered an assassination when in fact governments have ordered assassinations of key figures in the past. So I don't really quite understand how the story got so out of control, because it was an airtight operation. I mean, President Obama spent Saturday night roasting Donald Trump at the White House Correspondents' Dinner as the troops and the Special Operations Forces were on the ground in that remote area of the suburb of Pakistan. So it's a very strange turn of events. Plus, you also have the added feature of all these so-called right-wing deathers now, or birthers.
Well, what it does, when you have to change a story, doesn't matter where you're working, whether it's a press office here or in the US, once you have to backtrack on a story, the conspiracy theorists immediately seize on it, don't they? And if you look at the net this morning, it's jam-packed with, did he really die? Was it him? Why isn't there a body? When will we see the photographs?
Well, this is the same environment that, we're going to kill grandma of the healthcare debate of 2 years ago. The whole birthers, show us your long-form birth certificate, you weren't born here. I mean, all of the craziness of campaign 2008 is coming up again in campaign 2012. And the sad fact is that we have a very strong right-wing propaganda network, the Fox News network in the States, that if you say something enough times, it becomes true.
But it is clear the White House wasn't straight with the story to start.
No, they were not.
That's their error.
Yeah, and we're not really sure where it happened. I mean, part of the problem is that when you have so many intelligence agencies involved in an operation like this, it's just like there's a game we play in our house called Chinese Whispers around the dinner table, where a story starts with the first person, and by the time it gets around the table to the fifth person, nowhere resembles what was originally said. And I think if you look at the way in which even the intelligence agencies of the U.S. have handled it, this is exactly what has happened. Somebody said, oh yeah, he did such and such, and that got blown up, and by the time it reached the next person, the next person, the next person.
One of the interesting things about the age in which we live now, the age of social media, and in particular the age of Twitter, is it's very difficult for big organizations, big governments, to hold a line in a story, because you're not the only one controlling the message. Everyone can control the message now.
Absolutely, and we saw this, for example, we're looking now at the so-called Arab Spring, and if you look at what happened in Egypt, and what was very interesting, because I'm in the midst of a book on that whole topic of social media and how the Egyptian revolution was handled, is that they began to self-police themselves because they had so many outside people that were either government-sponsored or whatever, whose sole purpose it was to spread disinformation and rumors. So they began to self-police themselves to make sure the story was true. And they would actually yell at each other on Twitter and other social networks saying, no, that's not true, get your facts straight. So when you do have social media, though, all you need to do is put one little quote out there, and if it gets picked up by enough people, it spreads like wildfire.
One of the interesting things about this morning is that many US commentators observing that Obama is going to race ahead in the polls because of this. And he needed this, didn't he? He needed needed a big hit at home.
He did, and he's anywhere from 9 to 12 points up over his previous rating, which is not that unusual. I mean, if you look even back to the initial start of the Iraq War, George W. Bush got, I think, a 15 or 20 point bump when combat operations started. The problem is that if you don't sustain it, and if you don't do it in such a way that is transparent, then what happens is that you immediately see a drop-off, and his ended up at historically low points by the time his administration was over.
America's been at the wrong end of world events for seemingly so many years now, and picking up the consequences of Afghanistan and Iraq, the global financial crisis, and suddenly you detect a spring in the step of American commentators over the last few days. This will be good for the confidence of America, which has taken a knock in recent years, hasn't it?
It has indeed. I mean, if you look at everything from the economy to the dreadful reports one after the other coming out of climate-related efforts such as the tornadoes and other activities. It's just been one bad news story after another from about September of 2008. Now, even with the economy in bad shape, when American optimism begins to show signs, that is sort of the rising tide that can lift all boats. And I think you do see people much more positive. What I find very disturbing, though, is the inability of the right to even mention the president by name. There's a very dramatic rewriting of history, a very dramatic rewriting of the narrative, whereas if you look at many of the statements that have come out from that side, it was all George W. Bush, and he's the one that caused Osama to be killed, so he should get all the credit for it. It's really, in some respects comical, in some respects quite tragic.
Land of the free, as they call your media. It's easy to see the death of Osama Bin Laden as the end of the story. In many ways, this isn't the end. America's war on terror continues in many ways. It's distinctly possible that it could be exacerbated by this assassination, this death.
I saw a comment the other day that had me, that I thought was very interesting. Somebody said, I think all we've done is hit the hornet's nest with a stick. And I thought about that for a bit, and yes, in some respects, no in other respects. The command and control, let's not forget that not only did they take out Osama Bin Laden, but there was an actual treasure trove of information on 10 hard drives, on finger disks and USB sticks and everything else. I think as the various intelligence agencies go through all of that data, you're going to find an absolute trove of information that is going to help with counterterrorism going forward. That said, it's much more diffuse now than it ever was. As I said a couple of times in interviews over the last few days, terrorists no longer look so much like Osama bin Laden. They look like you and me because they've been able to infiltrate and get their message across. So that, and they're much more splintered and they're much more decentralized. So you have a lot more sort of free agents out there, and I think that's where the worry is going to be. You have people that can do things like they did in Morocco to the cafe and, take out 15, 20 people at a time. I think that's what's going to be the face of terrorism, less so the big, spectacular 9/11 sort of events.
Prince Charles is going to meet Barack Obama in Washington a little later today, and UK commentators will be poring over all the body language and the chemistry to write the usual story about the special relationship. How do you judge it at the moment?
Well, I think the relationship is beginning to improve slightly. There's no secret to the fact that Gordon Brown and President Obama did not get along at all, and it was quite a frosty relationship. I'm not sure how the administration yet feels about David Cameron. There's still a lot to be said and done. He tends more to represent the U.S. Republican side of things, being a Tory, so I don't imagine it being a warm relationship, but they are more closely aligned in terms of age and charisma and camera savvy and media savvy. So I think there's a little bit more respect there than there was with the doer, Mr. Brown. The special relationship will always be special, but I think if you look over the last 10 years, the UK has really made a lot of fits and starts in their foreign policy. They didn't help themselves by, landing in a field in Libya and getting the commandos caught, by the rebels and having to negotiate their release. There's been a series of, we want to step in and do something and be more important, but not really quite sure, and there's a bit of squabbling with the French now over how we're going to control Libya and what's going to happen there. So the special relationship still has a ways to go.
Dennis, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed for coming in. The US journalist Denis Campbell. Jamie with you on BBC Radio Wales.